is no acceptable level of lead, especially for children. And so, knowing what material your service line is made of is an essential piece of determining your risk. It used to be that we thought that lead service lines didn't have a risk of conveying lead into the home, but there's many instances where it can be very high, and in every instance, it's a risk. So it's really important that people know where their water is coming from. Are they drinking out of a lead straw or aren't they? And so getting notification is important for people to receive so they are transparent, that they know what's going on.
And just, I want to provide a little bit of background here. Some Chicago officials, they are defending their decision to fall short of federal and state requirements to notify about 1 million residents about toxic lead service lines. Some of them are arguing that the money is better spent actually replacing the pipes than mailing out some of those notices. But critics say that the city is ignoring laws and designed to protect public health as well as keep residents informed. We are speaking with Jen Walling. She's the executive director of the Illinois Environmental Council. Now, the city argues, Jen, that spending $10 million on mailings would be wasteful when that money could go towards actually replacing the pipes. Do you agree or disagree with that line of thinking?
I'm confused, and I think that we saw in that hearing that alders were also confused. I don't know how delivering letters to 900,000 homes is going to cost $10 million. Just doing the math on that, that's a lot in doing a mailer. I mean, maybe there's some staffing time, et cetera, that would be needed to be found. But under state law, we're at the point where the city also already should be required to know where the lead service lines are. They should already have a plan that's in with the state for replacing their lead service lines. So I find some of it very confusing. We have 400,000 lead service lines. Illinois has an eighth of all lead service lines in the country. It is a huge issue, and we're going to need to figure out a plan to put it forward, figure out how to solve it, figure out how to bring costs down from what has been put out there. And it's a big issue to wrap around, but it's incredibly important. Lead contamination is an issue that we know how to solve. We just need the political will to do it.
Jen, could you provide our viewers, I guess, a peek inside? Are there certain neighborhoods or areas within Chicago that do still have some of these lead pipelines compared to others that are more
The
updated?
Sure. So the lead service lines are all over the city of Chicago. They're more likely to be in homes that are three, two flats or less because of the size of a lead service line. You really have restrictions on the size. So if you're in a multifamily building, it could be that you're less likely, but there are still places where lead could be part of your plumbing, and there are still some places that remarkably had a lead service line, even though that wasn't typical for that size. So they could be all over the city. They're more likely to be in single family homes and two flats than anything else. There are test kits that are provided by the city that have been provided for several years, but also there are test kits that can be purchased at any hardware store. And so it's important that folks figure out what they're doing, what lead service lines, how they're being provided their water. I do recommend to people, there are all sorts of water filters that remove lead from tap water. Our tap water is very safe in the city. It's just how it's being conveyed. It's the safest way to get water is tap water, but the lead can pose a risk. So ensuring that you're adding a filter if you think you're at risk is important.
Outside of those maybe water filters, what should somebody maybe watching this do if they find out that their home does have these lead pipes? Are there any aids out there to help them in the process of potentially replacing those pipes? Where should they start?
Well, I think there's also confusion with the Department of Water Management about how expensive lead service lines are. There are many municipalities in the rest of the city that are doing a really great job at looking at how to at starting the replacement and doing it. Places like Evanston, Elgin are identifying their lead service lines and they're already on their way towards replacement. And in some of these municipalities, the cost ends up being somewhere around 5 to 7 thousand. That's kind of what we've seen nationally, but we're seeing figures in Chicago that are in the 20 to 30K range. So we're going to have to figure out how to get those costs down. So if you want to do it on your own, it's still going to be something that is pretty expensive. So I would recommend to folks that they get water filters if they have a lead service line and replace the filter on as recommended by the filter that's been installed. And I just would really like to see the city continuing to move forward with planning. Every time that we replace a water main in the city, we should be replacing every lead service line on that block. It's the cheapest way to deal with this issue. And anytime there's a gas pipeline being replaced on a block, we should be putting replacing lead service lines on that block. So there's a lot that we can do to bring down the costs. And I'm not sure why the costs being provided by the Department of Water Management are as high as they are right now.
Actually, I was going to ask you about the cost. Read a stat from Alderman Villegas where he claims that it costs about 4 to 5 times more to replace a line in Chicago than it does other cities. Do you have any idea why it would be so much more expensive here in Chicago compared to other cities?
I don't know. The numbers that I've seen that are coming out have been very high, and we have similar labor requirements that other cities have. I think maybe it's looking at the entire cost of all the pieces of the project. I know that we did some work, and the Chicago City Council should be commended for the work that it did to reduce permitting requirements. I mean, you used to start with a minimum of $2,500 to $5,000 just to get the permits to replace your lead service line, and those have been waived, so you can get that. But we're not, there's nothing that should make us that much higher than other cities. So I think it's something we really need to explore. And the city can bring those costs down by doing planning. I think we gotta, we have to take this issue really seriously and figure out how to bring the costs down and in comparison to other cities that are replacing them and doing them much more cheaply than we are, still with union labor.